The Blind Tony Story, Book 7, Chapter 8. Hmm. The Israelites were very rebellious. The Bible called them stiff-necked. And they got to see the awesome power of God to deliver displayed over and over and over again. And then they would always, after a brief period of repentance, return to their former course of rebellious behavior every single time. They would grumble and complain about everything. And every time God would listen to them and give them whatever they wanted. He brought them out of bondage in Egypt. He parted the Red Sea. He gave them water from the rocks. He gave them manna from the skies. He gave them meat on the wind. And still they complained about his leadership. And every time he would turn from his burning anger and show them loyal love, patience, and compassion. He would heal them, lead them, and bless them, and they would still go back to leaning on their own understanding, refusing to acknowledge his ways every single time. And every time that they did that, they would reap destruction. They continually sowed with a view towards the flesh as opposed to the spirit. And me, in my own way, was doing the same thing. My addiction was still at work, taking steroids, doing push-ups, waiting to show me how strong it had become. And it resurfaced with a power I had never known before. I started doing things I thought I would never do. I set up one of the buildings I worked for to be robbed. Not Gregorio's buildings, but one of the other ones. I had the keys to the basement. And stored in the basement was a bunch of factory equipment for working with leather. All I had to do was leave the basement door unlocked at a certain time so that the equipment could be stolen. I was to receive $1,500 for my services in cash. The equipment did get stolen, and I got double-crossed. I received a total of $300 and was told that the rest would be forthcoming when the equipment got sold. I knew I had to flee. I couldn't go back to the building anymore. I couldn't go to the authorities because I didn't end up incriminating my own self. So I was stuck with nowhere to go. I found myself back on the streets of New York once again. I even ended up having sex with a transvestite who paid me $50. Wow. I was sinking lower and lower. I knew I needed help. So I called home once again. My sister Pat suggested that I might want to go to Silver Springs, Maryland. That's where Apollonia and her husband had set up an outreach program, a ministry to help people in need. She also gave me a stern warning not to interfere in their relationship at all. Pat and Apollonia have always been close over the years. In fact, they still are, even to today. I knew in my heart that I did have an ulterior motive, so I got her to Western Union meet the bus fare and directions to Apollonia's, but I didn't go. My father suggested that I might want to go to my cousin's house in Brooklyn. His name was Windsor, and this seemed like the best idea at the time. Dad called him up and everything was arranged and okayed. I arrived late that night. And Windsor picked me up at the train station. We had never met before, and I had nothing, not even a change of clothes or a toothbrush. They lived on Madison Street in the Bed-Stuy section of Brooklyn, and they had a big house with a yard and a garage. I had my own room, and another cousin also lived there named Turin, who was a bass player. He had just come off the road on tour with the Dream Girls show. He also taught music for the Board of Education, but was currently unemployed. He played music all the time, all night long, and music was a big part of Windsor's house. Windsor's brother lived downstairs, and there was another person whom they had also taken in. They also had a little girl named Jerry, whom they had adopted, and whom I took to daycare every morning. It was the perfect place for me to get my life back on track. They even had a piano in the living room, and I started playing music once again. Windsor was a retired bus driver who was also a musician. His wife, Wilnette, worked, was one of the most beautiful people I had ever met in my life. And all my recovery, in some way, I have to credit to her. And the example that she set in her unconditional love towards me. Windsor used to sometimes do moving jobs, and I would assist him. He always paid me. Wilnette worked for a TV station in Midtown, and I tried my best to help them out in any way I could around the house. Wilnette used to make sure I always had a few dollars in my pocket. They had two sons, one of which had just graduated from Project Return, where he had spent 2 years. Now he had his own place in the Bronx, where he was the super for a large building. He also had his estranged wife and children who lived in a brownstone, not far from where Wilnette lived, in Brooklyn. He had been the percussionist for a group called Mandrill, and he also played keyboards and bass. Things were going very good for a while, but eventually my addiction surfaced once again, and I turned back into the creature. Christmas was coming. The tree was up. It was up weeks for advance, and Wilnette had paid me good to decorate the entire house as well as the yard. The pile of presents grew under the tree, and every day I would open the boxes, steal the gifts, and sell them for drugs, and then rewrap and reweigh down the boxes and place them back under the tree. I was careful not to leave any telltale signs. I even stole several fifths of liquor that was under the tree, and I replaced them with bottles full of water. Finally, Christmas Day came, and everybody gathered around the tree to open up their presents. The kids went first. And wow, man, I'll never forget the look on their faces when they opened up those empty boxes. The entire household was in shock. Who could have done such a terrible thing? And it was me. I told them I was going to the store to buy a pack of cigarettes, and I went down the street to the park, and I just cried, yo. I knew I had truly violated everything that was sacred, and I was no longer worthy to enter their home anymore. I called Wilnette up on the phone, and I confessed to her what I had done. I also told her that I was no longer worthy to be a part of the family anymore, and that I was leaving, and I wouldn't be coming back, and that I was truly sorry. And the next thing that happened really, really, really blew my mind. Wilnette asked me where I was, and I told her. And she came, and then she told me that no matter what I had done, we were family, and I would always be loved. She told me that they were things, and they could be replaced, but we were family. I told her that I couldn't go back. I couldn't face the kids of Windsor. And she said never, ever, ever tell Windsor what I had done. He would never understand. But then she told me to go with her, and we caught a cab to the mall, and she replaced every single gift that I had stolen. Every single gift. She also bought back 3 silver certificate $100 bills that I had stolen and sold from my cousin's wife while I was over her house doing work. We went back to the house and truly had one of the best Christmases I have ever had in my entire life. I don't know what kind of lie she told Windsor, but it was never brought up again. She covered for me 100%. Immediately after the holidays were over, we both went to the offices of Project Return. And I entered treatment once again. This time, I was truly a broken man, and I stayed there every bit of 2 years. All the counselors and directors were my ex-peers. They all gave me a hard time. Every chance they got, they gave me the game. But in the end, it helped to make me stronger. Wilnette, Windsor, and all my cousins supported me every step of the way. Eventually, I did graduate from that program. Ravanisha officially divorced me while I was in that program, and Azra refused to see me or talk to me at all. I stayed there every bit of 2 years, but everything was ahead now. I had nothing to go back to, nothing at all. Everything was ahead. The only thing that I still had in my life was my family and God, and they proved that when everything else was gone, they would still be there. I now had over $3,000 in the bank. I had my own place in the Bronx on the sixth floor with a waterfront view. I had fully furnished my place. I had a job as a counselor at Project Return. I also had paid up 2 months' rent into a security deposit. And I also had about $1,300 in my pocket. Life was good.